Hello, and welcome to this May edition of Monroeville at your service. I'm your municipal manager, Alex Graziani, and we're excited to bring to you our second installment of this rebooted program. Let's take a look at what's on today's show. We've heard from you with more questions, and later in the show, I'll have answers to those questions. Monroeville underwent its annual spring cleaning. Highlights from the Jack Sedlak Memorial Cleanup Day event are still to come. And I'll go out on a town with Monroeville Police Patrolman Derek Yeoman. But first, we're happy to have the man who leads our Monroeville Police Department. Joining us on today's show is Chief Doug Cole. Chief Cole, welcome.
Thanks, Manager Graziani. I appreciate the offer. Appreciate
what
the time being here.
What a privilege to have you. Just a quick introduction to Doug. The first time we really met, though I've known about you for years, was the day before Christmas Eve just last year. And at 7 a.m., you and Councilmember Poach showed up and gave me a tour for the day. And it got long, so long that my wife called me and asked me if I was okay a few hours into it. But welcome, Chief.
We didn't put you in the jail cell. We drove you around Monroeville and showed you the town.
You let me look into it, but you didn't lock the door behind it, so I appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
Thank you for taking the time to be here, Chief.
Okay, thanks for having me. Appreciate
so just introduce yourself to the community. Talk about how long have you served here in Monroeville?
Well, I'm in my 39th year as a police officer here in Monroeville, but I've really served since I was really 14 years old, hanging around a volunteer fire station here in Monroeville, obviously. And so I've been involved in emergency service since I was 16. I became a junior fireman at Monroeville number 5. I was an EMT before I was 17. And believe it or not, I was what they called an EMT 2, which was a paramedic back then with no state laws covering us, where there was a doctor by the name of Alan Shatner, was very progressive, out of Columbia Hospital. And I was a young paramedic at 18 years of age, just over 18. I actually was in the paramedic training, which wasn't the official training. I had to do more training after to meet the national modules to be what became a state certified paramedic. But I was a paramedic at 18.
So you were very involved in the first responder world with the EMT, with the fire company. Kind of how come you're in the police side of it? I know you're still involved in all of that, but what kind of led you to the path of becoming a police officer?
Well, I was always looking for a career path, and I knew I was going to be going to college after high school. So the emergency service just kind of caught me that the police, the law enforcement side. Of course, we had interaction with police officers in Monroeville on emergency calls, and I eventually got hired as a paramedic in Penn Hills, and that was actually part of the police department in Penn Hills. So I worked there from 1979 to 1985. And then I got hired here in Monroeville as a police officer. So I was actually a paid paramedic, still volunteering in Monroeville, living in Monroeville. And I was working both avenues and watching police work too. So it was always an interesting thing that I wanted to do. But in the same token, I went to school at night for law enforcement and administration of justice. Started at Boyce, ended up at Pitt to get my bachelor's degree. So I did that at night school while I was working full time.
That's wonderful. So next year will be your 40th anniversary here at the municipality. Talk a little bit about what the Monroeville Police Department is today.
Well, when I got started, in 1985, when I got hired in Monroeville, which was a dream come true, we were just going under a little bit of a transition. We only had like 28 guys at the time, 29, and we were just starting to make hiring trends as we went all through the 80s and into the 90s. We hired 15 at one time in the early 90s. So that got us up to that 50 category, 56 category. So I watched the department kind of really grow. We were starting to see, the mom and pop farm community that we were at one time, we were no longer. And certainly, Route 22, in the Turnpike and the Parkway and everything associated with the highways, we started to see a different crime level.
Do you have an idea, like how many calls we do a year, kind of some of the statistics?
Last year in 23, we did close to 19,000 calls for service.
Wow, 19,365 days. That's
that includes traffic stops thrown in there and some self-initiated stuff, and 19,000 calls for service. To be exact, it was 18,973.
And what's amazing is when you talk about the calls, we receive the calls here, huh?
We're blessed that we've committed to and spend over $1 million a year at having our own dispatch center. One of the advantages of a dispatch center locally, not to take anything away from the county 911 and what they do, they took a lot of smaller communities and gave them a real professional dispatch. Our local dispatch just provides us with a local flavor. It also puts us in a position where we have people in the building 24/7, even though the police department's obviously open 24/7, but they're out patrolling and doing that, doing other, handling calls for service. We're able to have people in the building and have the building occupied with at least 2 people 24/7.
I've had the chance to listen to some of the calls after an incident has happened, and whether it was helping somebody to administer CPR with a cardiac arrest or in a situation dealing with mental health, it's remarkable the level of training and the composure that the call takers, the dispatchers have here in Monroeville. Very impressed with their level of professionalism.
You're 100% correct. They do a great job. And they do as well as, they're trained at the same level as the county. And one of the things, we're the only, I believe there's 7 left in Allegheny County that have their own dispatch, 7 or 8. Don't hold me exactly to the number, that's been changing. But we're the only one that do full service. We dispatch police, fire, and EMS. Most of the other agencies that have their own dispatch will just be police only, or police and fire only, or just EMS only, actually. But we're the last one. I think we are the last one in Allegheny County.
Well, that sounds like an advantage because of the cross level of first response that's often required at various calls.
It does let us allocate our resources a little bit better.
So going back up like at a 30,000-foot view, when you think of the goals of the department, and you want the public to understand here in Monroeville what your goals are, how would you articulate those?
Well, my goals currently, the big push this year is to get accreditation through the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission. That's what we're pushing to get done here. We've kind of been doing that all along. It's just a matter of making sure that we got the paperwork and we're documenting it correctly. That's what we're seeing that we're doing here.
So accreditation's about best practices, public safety,
absolutely.
and how to do it right?
Pennsylvania, obviously, it's been around for a few years now, probably a decade and a half. But and of course, there's a national accreditation too called CALIA, but we're doing what they call PLAC, Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission. And what it is best practices across the state and at state level, where we're trying to make sure that we document the things appropriately that we need to document, from use of force to prisoner transport to pursuit driving, making sure that we're doing the training. So our training has picked up dramatically. We're 4 times a year we're shooting, we're doing all kind of quals and different type of training with our firearms, with our less lethal, all the stuff that goes with that. So when you look at our training that we've had to do and what the officers have to know, and of course the technology then throws it on top of that, it's dramatically different than when I started.
And hearing you talk, obviously for a person who's getting near their 40th anniversary, the past 6 months have been really challenging, maybe the most challenging of your entire year of service. For the first time in Monroeville PD's history, we've had an officer shot, but not only one who was shot in the line of duty, thankfully surviving, but 2 who was shot in the line of duty, and again, we are thankful for his recovery. Talk a little bit about that as chief. What was that like for you and for your team to experience that kind of trauma?
Well, it was obviously different. It's my first time in my career. Now, sadly in my career, I've been involved with other departments that have actually lost officers. But certainly to have it in your own department, it was a different experience. I mean, I am proud of all days, how the officers handled that, how taking the suspects into custody, everything that went along with that, from the investigation, which the county police assisted, at least in this county. One ended up in Westmoreland County, but the Westmoreland County detectives, how they did it, how they assisted it, how our officers assisted them because they had the lead agency. So we did all of that appropriately. The officers acted heroically in both events. I couldn't be more proud of them. I mean, they were just off the charts. Any department across the country, I'm sure any chief in the country would have been happy to have the officers act the way they did. My hat's off to both officers.
I agree with you. The pride that we have in their response, in the textbook, best practice, how they handled the situation was
amazing.
amazing.
Even the community's response after it was off the charts. We have that blue light project where people put blue lights up to show the support. We had signs. I mean, we tried to keep it on the low key as much as we could because we were trying, hey, it is part of the job. It is a risk that we know we have. But again, the officers just did an outstanding, all the officers, the ones involved in making the arrests after the fact, the officers that were involved, one was a pursuit. They all did just an outstanding job.
And thank you, and for your leadership, and thank them for their professionalism. Turning the corner towards the citizens at home, what can people do in Monroeville to keep themselves safe as you try to keep them safe?
Well, I mean, well, certainly one of the issues that we see, I always want to talk about the violent crime, not that we haven't seen an increase of it, we certainly have, as you look over the past 5 years or so. But the real truth, I say Monroeville's known for two things in law enforcement: retail thefts and vehicle crashes. Okay? They're one of the two of our big. Now we're seeing, again, I'm not trying to minimize it, we are seeing some other more violent domestics. Certainly, when you're looking from a safety standpoint, you want to make sure you secure your belongings. You don't leave items open in cars. You don't leave your cars unlocked. You don't leave weapons in your car unlocked. You don't leave your keys in the car. You don't leave your fob to start the car.
And if they see something, we have a dispatch, call.
Absolutely. If they see something, call us. Make sure that you let us know, because even if it's a minor thing, we'll send them. You never know, it might be something we have other information. That's one of the things, again, about a dispatch. It's really what they call a fusion center. There's been technology that we've been putting throughout the municipality over the past really decade. That technology needs to be monitored. So what you're seeing when they regionalized all the dispatching on a countywide level, again, which I'm not against, that's not a bad thing. But these local departments, specifically the city, had to then put officers in what they call fusion centers to monitor all their technology so that they can then get it out to the officers about, hey, something's going on in this neighborhood, whether it's video, shot spotter, license plate readers, drones, aerial support, all the things associated that's coming down the pipe. So there's a lot of things happening technology-wise that make it safer for everybody. That's a big deal. And so we don't have to do that. We have a dispatch center.
How can Monroeville residents and businesses stay in touch or follow what's going on with the police department?
We have a website it's a Crime Watch website. You go to just PA Crime Watch and you're able to find that. We keep up with all our wanted people that are recently arrested. We post it on the Crime Watch. It has tips on what to watch out for, what's going on. We also use a program called Nexel. If you're a Monroeville resident, you should get it in your water bill, where you can log on to Nexel and get our alerts that we put out when, like, we have a crash and we're blocking the roadway. We'll put out, our dispatch center will try to put out
So there's ways
an
for
alert.
Citizens to get notifications, like on their phone?
Yeah, and we also have a Facebook page along with our website here in Monroeville that's maintained by our IT department. They do a great job.
What a privilege and an honor it is to talk to you, Chief. I knew when I got an opportunity to serve here that I'd be getting to work with a great guy, and I haven't been disappointed. Everything that you do when it comes to me has been generous, and I always learn. I'm always learning something when I'm with you, so I really appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate your enthusiasm for all this. This is really, certainly the police department is, we've been blessed that our elected officials, and again, yourself too, as the manager, have gotten us a funding to get us up to 50 officers again. We're trying to do everything that we can, with the school district, with everybody involved here in the municipality, to just make it safer for everyone.
Excellent. We'll keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Coming up next, more with our police as I go out on the town with veteran officer Derek Yeoman. But before that, as we end things with our chief of police here, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that the month of May celebrates National Police Week. This year, and every year since 1962, National Police Week pays special recognition to law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty. Back on May 13th, a ceremony and candlelight vigil was held at the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. Here's a brief snippet. We'll be back with more in a moment.
I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a Holy Ghost lover. A 911, I got your back, brother. No matter what, I show up. There's a heart beating fast under all this blue. Just doing my job, man, just like you. Kiss my baby hello. Yeah, daddy's home. And shut the door. Checking out badge,